I think we're in for a really interesting discussion here. So your Thursday night will be well spent. My name is Drew Gorham. I'm the director of the SBIA Summer Program, which is for those who don't know, Silicon Valley Innovation Academy here. I think we have our students here, maybe. We're also open to the wider Palo Alto, Stanford community, so we welcome you. And lastly, there should be some folks from the Technology Intensive program out here. So I was told to make an announcement. If you want credit for being here tonight, just at the end of the event, go and check in and get your name signed up here with these. Okay, so on the panel tonight, we're going to be discussing these new educational pathways into Silicon Valley. It's a really fascinating topic that is near and dear to my heart. I'll talk more about that later. But before we get there, I'd like to introduce our panelists. To my left here, we have Nir Caldero, who's the director of Galvanize U. And next to him is Carlos. Can I pronounce your Spanish last name? Villanueva? Did I get? No, I butchered that. Founder of Product School. And next to him is Russ Busas, founder of Tradecraft. Yeah, so like I mentioned, I'm really excited about this because I was myself a student of Product School about 2 years ago, which is a product management kind of boot camp. Had a great experience there, and I've worked with folks in the Product School community afterwards. I've also hired students from Galvanize U training and just been blown away, and worked with dozens of trade crafters, hired a couple as well. So I'm really excited to keep hiring. Yeah, keep hiring, keep it going. Awesome. So I thought to kick us off, we could just kind of go around, and if you could just tell us a bit about what Galvanize U is and your role there, and we'll check in with Carlos and Product School.
Sure, so hello everyone, my name is Nir, I'm the head of data science at Galvanize. I'm managing all of our B2B and B2C product, data science product. And actually Galvanize U is our master program which is a sub-product for the data science one. To those of you who don't know, Galvanize is the learning community for technology. We train and teach everyone with the aptitude, drive, and determination, hopefully change their life and get them their dream job. We have product in data science, in data engineering, in software engineering. We took a very unique approach for teaching. All of our products are industry focused, practicum based, and hands-on. We currently have 8 campuses across the US and opening 2 more by the end of this year.
And your role there?
I'm the head of data science. Managing all the B2B and B2C side.
Great. And Carlos, tell us about Product School.
Hello. My name is Carlos. Let's keep it there because my last name is pretty complicated. If you want to find me online, just type Carlos and Product School. And then if you find someone with a very long last name, that's me for sure. I'm the founder of Product School. That's a school where we teach product management. Product management is a very, very popular job here in Silicon Valley, and not only just in Silicon Valley, it's also very popular in general in tech. We like to help people learn about product management, and then we also help them get jobs in product management. We started here in Silicon Valley 3 years ago, and we grew pretty fast. We have a total of 6 campuses now across the US. 2 of them are here in the Bay Area. We have 3 down there in Los Angeles, and 1 more in New York.
Great, yeah, Russ.
The story's not that impressive. I am Russ Busas. I am the founder of Tradecraft. I would say our primary job is to help, for the time being, a very small select group of people every month figure out what's next. And sometimes what's next is an aspirational thing where things are going well and you want to make sure they keep going that way. And sometimes it's not going well, where what's next, although exciting when things are going well, is completely paralyzing when you don't know the answer to that question. I'd say we're super early into that journey, but where we consistently help people answer that question right now is in doing something along the lines of kind of what is now a pretty common bootcamp model in the Valley and all tech hubs. We primarily focus on non-technical stuff, so this is design, sales, and growth. But we have little to no commitment to any of those verticals, or especially the strict categorization. You could read about us publicly if you can find anything at all. It's just the part that we're willing to publicly say we can do for sure, because we've done it for 500 or 600 people that work at basically every company you can think of with this moderately successfully.
Great. And so I kind of want to dig a little deeper into how you guys came to be. And I think a good way to start off would just be to ask, who are your customers?
Well, I can start. I think maybe you guys, but everyone really with aptitude, drive, and determination. We don't really look at credentials or past experience. We want motivated people. We want entrepreneurs. We want people that really have this perseverance, persistent determination. People that want to change their career and get their dream job. That's the truth.
In my case, it's a little bit more specific. When I started this company, I did it because I wanted to create a solution to my own problem. My background is as a software engineer, so I learned how to code, but then I soon realized that I didn't want to code anymore. And all of my classmates wanted to code, so I was kind of lost because I didn't know what were my options. So you will see here in Silicon Valley and now in other tech hubs, there are a lot of people that have a technical background, but they also work in business. They can be either founders or they can be product managers, which is fairly similar, but in a larger organization. So I became a product manager on the go by starting my own companies. Nobody really taught me how to do it, even though I went to engineering school and I also went to business school. I kind of did both extremes. Product is kind of in the middle. So I decided to start a school to teach others how to do what nobody taught me how to do. And if you look at our instructors, that's also the same case, because 10 years ago, there was no school who was teaching any of these skills, not just product, probably data or growth or this UX design. So all of our instructors are not teachers. They are real-world product managers that keep their full-time jobs at Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, or any of those top companies and teach on the side. And I think my customer first was myself. Someone like myself, but probably 5 years younger. Someone with a technical background, trying to figure out how to not to code. Now this is growing very fast, and majority of our students, yes, come from software engineering, probably 3 to 5 years of experience. But we also have a lot of people that come from business or design. A lot of management consultants that are in New York that hate their life, and now they want to get into tech. We have a lot of designers that also want to be more involved into the decision-making process. They just not want to draw, they also want to understand how to connect with the business side. So in general, it's any professional in tech with 3 to 5 years of experience who want to move towards the middle and become a manager.
I haven't talked publicly in a while about what we do, so you're going to get a lot of, well, the public stuff and then the real stuff from us. So publicly, what I'm supposed to say is, thinking of our demo, so our youngest was 18, our oldest was 62, from a guy who showed up and then told us that his plan was to live in homeless shelters the entire time of the program because he had spent his last 100 months getting there, to one time I walked into a new cohort and the 5 women in the program came from Harvard Law, Wharton MBA, Oxford, McKinsey, and the World Bank. And I was like, I didn't get my undergrad done. What are you doing here? So like, I would really say the only thing that is consistent is they're trying to figure out what's next, and they just decided that like this is the best way to spend their time. This is their most efficient path there. You have to be a certain level of smart because this is a town where you have to be a certain level of smart. Beyond that, it would be ideal if you were super motivated all the time, and if you had a really perfect idea of what you were doing and a perfect track record of success. But because of what we're trying to figure out long term, that'd be kind of boring. So really, like, as long as you're smart enough to clear the bar and you're not going to quit before we do, and we don't tend to quit, then like we'll take the chance because we like seeing what happens. That's our public. Privately, this is one of the I don't actually have a lot of involvement day to day in our school anymore, but one of the few conversations I get to have is on the first day of people's kind of life at Tradecraft and in Tradecraft, and with my staff. And it's always, you are not our customers, or they are not our customers. And I'm normally saying this to people who've taken, has anyone been to the Tradecraft website? Perfect. Literally. Go to the Tradecraft website on all your computers, and you're going to look at it and go, that's a design school? It's horrible. It's just horrible. Because we're cool with that, because we figured out it was a great filter for us, and we can't handle any more. So if you go to that website and you say you convince your parents to fork over $14,000 plus living expenses, you're just like, I just took a huge risk, and within 15 minutes of showing up, I'm just like, cool, I'm not thinking of you as my customer. And the reason I say that is because customers you have to keep happy. And one of the things I learned in studying people, in studying data, and economics, and psychology, and anthropology, and all these other things is what's right isn't often what's easy. And good mentors will often tell you the thing that you don't really want to hear, and they at least have to have the authority to do so. And you lose some of your ability to say, stop being an idiot, this is the right thing to do, or you're 22 years old, you're probably not going to get hired as a product manager at Facebook coming straight out of here, let's be more realistic and pragmatic about it. If your job is to keep them happy. So we look at them as members. The people who are in the program, I hope that 4 or 5 or 6 years later, they'll come back and be instructors when they're transitioning between gigs again. The people who are instructors now are only allowed to be there for 2 years before we move them into a company we have an investment in or invest in whatever they're doing. We look at them as members and as partners because then we have a responsibility to do what we believe to be right by them. And the penalty that we pay for that is for all practical purposes other than the legal ones due to just silly like actual restrictions it puts on you when you say it, we basically operate as a nonprofit. The guy who runs our school is this guy Nick DeVolde. He's a GSB grad, Stanford grad. He's amazing. He is required to hit 120% of his expenses in revenue, no more, and very, very little less, because you can't say like we're perfectly aligned if I'm making money off you, regardless of whether or not you win. So our deal is like we basically break even. You guys pay your bills, so that we have a responsibility to make sure that we deliver for you. Above and beyond that, like we haven't really figured it out yet, and I don't have a ton of interest in making money or trying to capitalize for making money off of 24-year-olds who are in Silicon Valley, because generally across the board, they have no money. If they have money, it's their parents' money. Like they have no money right now, so it seems silly to take their money right now. And 2, you guys are all fucking geniuses. You're gonna go on and create billion-dollar companies someday, and like I'd rather make money from you than like I want to make money with you. So that has worked for us, but that's the reason why we have one tiny little campus and a couple people who come through all the time, because we haven't figured out how to scale what we want to do in a way where we can kind of to what our look like.
Very interesting, yeah. So to kind of segue from that, one of the big things we emphasize in the SBIA approach is to start by solving a problem people care about. And I'm just curious, maybe Carlos, you mentioned you were solving your own problem. I'm curious to hear from Nir and Russ, like what problem was your company solving? How do you think about that?
Yeah, so there are 2 really big problems. One of them is actually coming from here, coming from academia. People don't get a job after a graduate degree, after a PhD. You know, we have a lot of students after 6 years of a PhD in physics degree coming to take a 3-month boot camp. I will literally kill myself if I will have to do it, although I did my PhD in Berkeley. But we see that there is a problem with the current education system, specifically in this country. It's a big problem, but one of the main issues is that the curriculum that traditional academia delivers is not tailored to industry needs. And one of the biggest mistakes is that people don't have a job at the end of it. So we wanted actually to, and you know, Carlos is also doing it, basically we measure our success by placement. whether our graduates get a job within 3 to 6 months after graduation. And the BBBE in California is actually very strict about it, which is basically the regulatory body that helps us measure displacement rate or our success as an education institute. So this is the first thing. We try to deliver and help other people consume education in a very different way so that at the end of the program they will actually get a job. The second thing is look at the industry. There is a gigantic talent gap, right? There is a gigantic talent gap in PMs, in product managers. There is a gigantic talent gap in data scientists, machine learner, people who do artificial intelligence. We are currently, and we spoke a little bit about that, we are currently at the beginning of the 4th industrial revolution, which is the artificial intelligence revolution. And you also read the famous McKinsey report about the gigantic gap in technical skills. And this is just the beginning. So we actually want to educate people and train people in these very technical, data-driven skills, data engineering, data science, software engineering, actually to help companies navigate their organization to be data-driven so they can actually survive in this new era. So I will ask you a quick question. Who knows what is the life expectancy of Fortune 500 companies today? Any guess? 1 year is a little bit. Imagine like IBM or some other companies, 1 year is too little. Any other guess? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah?
Norwegian?
Pardon me?
Norwegian?
Norwegian.
Sorry, life expectancy?
Yeah, what is the lighter number?
Japan, 76 for women.
60.
Okay, let me clarify my question. It's a good one.
The answer is red. The answer is red.
So my question is, what is the life expectancy of Fortune 500 company? You have a guess?
Maybe 5 to 10 years.
Right. So let me give you some numbers. So in 1955, life expectancy of Fortune 500 companies was 75 years. There was no reason to be worried at 1955. In 2015, it dropped to 15 years. And today it's actually almost less than 8 years. So companies are asking themselves every day, and this is my job. My job is to be on stage and to help these Fortune 500 companies survive in this new era of technology. And they ask themselves, what can we do today in order to make sure and think about IBM and think about McKesson and think about all of these gigantic corporations out there, what they can do today in order to survive in this era. So they need to navigate the organization to be data-driven, so they will unlock all the opportunities of data science and machine learning to drive business revenue. But they also need to hire so many people to accomplish this very ambitious goal. So there is a gigantic talent gap. So this is kind of like the second problem that we try to solve, help these large enterprises become more agile and data-driven so they can actually survive in this game.
How about Russ, the Tradecraft? When you set out to build Tradecraft, what was the problem you guys were solving?
This one I'm good at. The one and only problem that we are trying to solve is what we call avoidable failure. I don't say failure because not all failure is avoidable. There's a lot of failure, especially here in Silicon Valley, that there really isn't failure, that's risk that didn't go your way. That's the dice coming up the wrong way, right? Like you didn't fail because you didn't roll a 7, it didn't turn out your way. Avoidable failure from an economist perspective or decision theory perspective is caused by something called boundary rationality. So we spend a lot of time focused on that, but I can make it more plain. You guys are doing customer development today, right? Or like you guys are out talking to your companies. Who talked to a friend about whether or not they liked your idea? Okay, avoidable failure. Don't ever ask your mom whether she likes your pet. She likes your pet. It doesn't mean anything. Right? She likes it because you're her kid, right? Avoidable failure is a startup that runs out of cash and is surprised. A friend of mine about 2 years ago now had to send out an email at 2 a.m. laying off her 400 staff members and giving an alert to her 1,500 customers that the company was shutting down as of 5 a.m. because she was like, oh God, I ran out of $10 million. That's avoidable failure. Starting a company like, I'm going to do Airbnb for hamsters. No, you're not. You're not. Like, there is a just crazy amount of stuff, even in this unpredictable world of startups, that really isn't that complicated if you've been there and done that. This is absolutely, at least partially me solving my own thing, and Misha, my partner, solving his, and really everyone that we've ever talked to, in addition to this, except for the ones who will tell you they just got very lucky on the first go. Like, I have failed in avoidable fashion, hard, like 8-figure exit from Google 9 months into a company to $1 million in a hole because I didn't hire the right lawyer and I didn't understand how the game worked. Like, that's avoidable failure. Like, just countless questions and scenarios where this stuff comes up. Our job is avoidable failure. When we succeed, hopefully you won't know anything about us because, like, I'm the nerd of our group. Anyone who tells you that they can help you be successful, X factor successful, like the next Zuck, the next whoever, is full of shit. Because, like, from a mathematical perspective, there is a combinatorial explosion that guarantees you cannot predict that with any level of accuracy. In nonlinear dynamic systems, chaos theory says, I have no idea what the right thing is. I've gotten to sit in the room with Mark and with Reed, with all the people that we really like here, and they all go, I worked my ass off, I made a lot of smart decisions, and I have no idea how to make you guys, how to make the Tradecraft members, how to make myself fantastically successful. But, like, I feel much more confident that I could be like, Airbnb for hamsters, man. I don't know. I don't think that's gonna work. Let's whiteboard that one a little more. So we almost exclusively focus on kind of boneheaded things that anyone with 10 years worth of experience wouldn't have done. And then if we miss that and you fail because of it, it's my fault. If you succeed, wow, you're awesome.
Yeah. So in that vein, like, talk about how you came up with the solution to this problem that you identified. Let's start with Carlos. I'm curious how you had this problem. How did you go about creating Product School? Or, like, what's the origin story there?
Yeah, well, I think you have a lot of different problems to choose. And the reality is that you have very limited time. So considering that you're going to have to focus on one at a time, I would rather focus on something that I care deeply, because it's going to be very easy to give up. You know, like, everything starts as a very sweet dream, but the reality is that even though you're solving your own problem, at some point you really want to give up. So I picked this because this is very close to my heart. I think I have a love-hate relationship with education. Because as a student, I didn't like most of my teachers. And I felt like they were telling me, okay, you will appreciate this in the future, but I'm still waiting for some of those things, right? So I always wanted to find like a shortcut. I wanted to learn what I wanted when I wanted. And I've been always very related to that. As an engineer, I think anyone who knows how to build something has a leg up, because you can start without asking for much help. It's not going to be pretty, but it's going to kind of work. And in the moment you have something that is good enough, you can test it and add tuners or rush points. And the reality is that your solution is never going to, your first solution is never going to be the ultimate solution. So I started by literally contacting with friends, and not just friends, but other engineers in my network that didn't want to code. You'll be surprised that a lot of people in Silicon Valley don't want to code. And I just had experience building companies and building products. So I started as a networking group. It was a free meetup where we would meet every week for an hour just to discuss. So I was pretty much offering my time for free just to chat with a group of 10 people. And obviously I don't have all the solutions, but as to Rush's point, I've been there, I've done that. I started other companies in the past. So that also kind of inspired me to understand that this is not just about my problem. It seems like there's a bigger group of people that have a similar problem. So I kind of crafted the solution with them for a couple of months. It was a free meetup just for 10 people with a very similar background, like engineers that didn't want to code. Then I launched the first class, and I was the first instructor. I think another kind of secret of a lot of startups is that you don't need a lot of money sometimes to start. So I literally bootstrapped my company by renting a conference room in a co-working space and teaching a curriculum that I created and not charging a lot of money. So in case it went south, nobody could complain. But it worked. It kind of worked. And based on that experience, we were able to start another class, and then another class, and then another class. And we've been now 3 years doing this. We've graduated over 2,000 students, and I'm not teaching anymore. I'm more focused on recruiting instructors. We've hired over 50 instructors. And it's interesting because it's a big snowball now, because every time there is a new class, we get some learnings from experience, from students and from instructors. So now we have a dedicated team, always tweaking the product. But everything started with what here they would call an MVP. The MVP was myself in a conference room of a co-working space. And then that's how we continue growing.
Conference room, very comfortable chairs, I would add to that. Nir, how about, so the origin story for Galvanize U, I'm curious how that came to be.
Let's distinguish between Galvanize and Galvanize.
Galvanize, right? Yeah.
So, our CEO, Jim Ditters, is really passionate about entrepreneurship. If you hear him talk about entrepreneurship, and it's kind of like mind-blowing. He's a serial entrepreneur, and he sold a few of his companies, and then he had a lot of money in the bank, and he said, okay, I want to figure out how can I start engage with companies and start investing in them. So we started Galvanize in Denver 5 years ago, and it started as a community workspace. Think about some version of WeWork for friends. And immediately right after, and due to technology changes and some other stuff that is currently happening in the market, we started a software engineering class, and then I joined Galvanize and created 3 years ago Galvanize U, which is a fully accredited Master of Science in Data Science, completely from scratch. Our accreditation body is in Connecticut, and then we acquired CFN Academy, which was a small boot camp in Silicon Valley that trained data scientists. So we acquired them just 3 months after I joined. We converted it to our data science immersive program, and as Carlos mentioned, we always revamp the product and constantly get feedback. Basically, the way to think about it is, my job is to make sure that our curriculum is state-of-the-art. And the way to go around that is to constantly collect feedback both from students and also from industry partners. So we have tons of industry partners. Our students are at Facebook and Google and Tesla, and we every 2 weeks meet their hiring managers and asking them a few very simple questions. What skills do you want to see when you hire this data scientist or software engineer? And by that, we basically collect data and change and work. It's always a work in progress, right? We are in a very dynamic, data science is a very dynamic field. It changes as we speak. Technology basically is changing very rapidly in the past 15 years. So it's always a work in progress. We started small and started growing. We currently have around 2,000 students in 8 campuses. Started bootstrapping our B2B, basically our enterprise offering. But it's constant work, always work in progress.
Yeah. And what strikes me is how new all of these programs were. I remember when I graduated from college with a degree in philosophy and math, I didn't really have the skill. I wanted to jump into Silicon Valley and get into the tech startup ecosystem, but I didn't really have skills to be valuable to those companies. So I had to kind of construct my own little, teach myself how to code, boot camp type of thing, with online courses and some Harvard Extension courses. And I would have killed for a program like some kind of boot camp that would have really gotten me up to speed in time. So it's just amazing how much has changed in those 5 to 7 years. So where do you see the next, like the future of these kind of new educational models? I'm curious, you know, the next, let's say, set the horizon at 5 years. Where do you guys see this going?
I can speak about it forever. Do you really want to go there? Do you want to say?
Sure. So our future in the next 5 years is to build the MBA for tech. As simple as that. We started with one course which is product management. And this kind of a core skills. Actually, a lot of our students come from business school. They graduated from MBA maybe 3-5 years ago. They work in finance or consulting, and now they want to break into tech. They wish there was at least one subject in their 2-year program that would cover something about product management. I don't care how you want to call it. Probably 5 years from now, this skill will have a different name, and that's totally fine. But I see that spending 2 years full-time, it's a huge risk because a lot of things will happen once you graduate. So I like this model where it's part-time, so you can continue with your life, either as a full-time student or with a full-time job. And the same way you go to the gym or you practice any hobby, you can also keep learning on the go, you know? What they call lifetime learning, lifelong learning. So product is one skill, but we are building a master's degree in business for tech. So there is going to be some UX design, there is going to be some digital marketing, there is going to be some data, there will be some VR, there will be some AI, and whatever comes next.
Right, so he gave me some reference points, so I can talk about it. So I'm myself an appointed professor, and unfortunately don't spend so much time in the classroom as much as I would want. And I'm very passionate in general about education and want to help academia in general make the transformation. So, you know, I'm on the education advisory board for the government and some other stuff. And if you look at what's going to happen, what are the trends that will happen in the next maybe 3 to 5 years in education, in academia, is that academic institutes understand the problem, that's the truth. They understand that graduates don't get a job. So it's time for change. Otherwise, they will keep closing PhDs, departments, and some other graduate departments and schools. So they understand that they have to change the mindset, and they have to figure out how to create a network that they will basically provide to their graduate some job opportunities. So there's many models to do it. One of them is what we call practicum-based education. Have you ever heard about it? So it's basically you go to the program, and for example, let's speak about Galvanize You. So it's a 12 months master program, and 6 months out of this program, you basically spend working on a real data science project with real industry partner. Now, Galvanize has the relationship with Google, Tesla, Facebook, Airbnb, and NASA, etc. But unfortunately, academic institutes, specifically the ones that are mostly focused on research, don't have this network. So this is something that they are already recognizing and starting to work on, how they can actually build. Now, if you even look at the regulator, so the regulator announced 8 months ago that academic institute like Stanford